Thanks for joining us today, Geoff.
Pleasure to be here.
It certainly is a great person to have on the show. Geoff's had experience not only as a captain for his state of New South Wales, but also a coach of both New South Wales and countries such as the likes of Pakistan. But I'd like to turn your time now back to when you were an actual player for Australia and the honour of playing for Australia. And again, through the eyes of a cricketer, share some of the experience you had when you first walked on some of the greatest grounds in the world, such as the SCG.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is a long journey, and I grew up in rural New South Wales in a place called Wagga Wagga, which everyone seems to think quite humorous, but I think it's quite nice, lovely Indigenous name. And my ambition was, as most young Australians, is you want to play cricket for your country, you start with your state. And my home ground was the Sydney Cricket Ground. So that's where New South Wales played. So as a kid in the backyard, that's where I wanted to be. And I've been incredibly fortunate to first make it as a state cricketer. And I can still remember my debut there. It was a pretty hot day in February. I didn't want to take off my blue cap or my blue sweater, because those things are so precious and hard earned. It was in the days when World Series cricket was on, so all the states were depleted to a degree, and particularly New South Wales, which is probably why I got a game. But that didn't really concern me. I had a blue bag hat on. I was out there playing for my state, and at that stage, as a young university student, that almost seems to be the end. I didn't need to go any further than that. To play on the SCG, where I'd been as a kid to watch cricket, to watch test matches as far as back as 69, 70, Australia versus the West Indies, and also 74-5 when England came out. And then I watched rugby league there as a kid. But that was a big trip up from the country. So walking onto the SCG, which fortunately I still do these days as a coach, it was special then, and it's special every time I walk on it now. And I transfer those thoughts to our current players. And your modern player gets a little bit blasé because they're so used to the technology that takes them all over the planet. And these young guys now think it's something special, whereas to them it was just something you do. But it's really special for those. So then from the SCG, I guess the other place you want to go is Lords, and got there in 1981 as a player and walked out there, and that's another special place where it's the sight of the Grace Gates, it's the hum of the crowd, it's the egg and bacon ties of the MCC members, it's the slope of the ground, it's practicing at the nursery, and then it's walking down through the members, through the long room. And in my day, it was through the cigar smoke when you were still out smoking there, which was, I found, quite off-putting, and out onto the ground. I just thinking about that now. It's goosebumps to me now. And then going out and playing. I played 3 test matches there, which was wonderful.
So your first match on Lords was actually playing for Australia?
On the 81 tour, I didn't play the tour game against Middlesex, which we also played there. I captained one game of Australia, which not a test match, but I captained Australia once, and that was against Middlesex at Lords. So that was before I captained New South Wales. So that's also another very special moment for me. Test match, first game that I walked onto the home of cricket. And for Australians, we're out in the colonies, and we like to beat England. We've got the great Ashes rivalry, but still walking on to what we call the home of cricket is something incredibly memorable.
Now they're 2 great grounds, the SCG and Lords. Let's turn our mind to the subcontinent here for a moment, and let's look at one of the grounds which our audience particularly likes to talk about, which is around Gaddafi Stadium in Lahore. Tell us your thoughts of that, especially as you first experienced it.
Well, Gaddafi Stadium, it's changed in what it means to me over the years. I mean, the first time I was there was 1980, and I was 12th man for a test match there, and I found Pakistan quite an unpleasant place to be. Some of the games we played a test match in Faisalabad where we didn't have a hotel. We stayed at a guest house. And they actually destroyed the wall of the house next door, and they told the residents, it's quite a nice house, they said, look, you're out for the test match because we need to use your kitchen. And we would go off to the test match every day, and so it's very different now. There's a fantastic hotel in Faisalabad, and the ground's wonderful. But so those my original thoughts, and we toured there in 1980 and 82. In 82 I played every test match. Very different to what it became later on. As the grounds became better, the touring in India and Pakistan became better, and Gaddafi Stadium where I played, I remember I got a wicket The last ball I bowled there was a wicket. It was I bowled a leg break to Mohsin Khan, Mohsin Khan, not Mohsin Khan, and he hit it onto his pads, and that was our one LBW for the whole tour. So that was okay. So I remember that one quite clearly.
So you're suggesting LBWs didn't come easily then?
No, they didn't. And Alan Border actually called him back because it was such a terrible decision. I said, "You're not calling him back. I don't get these wickets. Off you go." But then, Gaddafi Stadium. I looked at my old diaries and I've got a comment. I do not ever want to visit this country again. They were difficult places to go. The cricket was hard, but also the living was hard. And then obviously to go back there,
as a coach.
35 years later, and Gaddafi Stadium became my home. But the ground had improved, and I was living across the road of the National Cricket Academy, and so I'd wake up in the morning, walk out the gates of the NCA, and I knew the back way into the stadium. I didn't have to go around by the PCB office, and the staff would, hello, how you going? Everyone calls you coach because you're the national coach. So the guy from the street sweeper to the guy putting up the nets to the groundsman, they all gave you a big smile, and it became a second home to me. And I really consider it as I've got great memories now of Gaddafi Stadium.
It's amazing that you say a second home to you. The fact that they've had all discussion over time now over the problems that have related to Pakistan, you've basically summed it up beautifully of how good the place really is.
Yeah, and my tenure there, which wasn't that long, 18 months in the end, but my abiding memories are of the hospitality, the friendliness, the dedication of the cricketers, the dedication of the staff that the PCB had, and the friendliness of just the people in the street. I just got great memories of being in Lahore and enjoying my time there. And the guys at the NCA, the staff there, whether it was the gardeners or the cooks, they became part of your family, let alone the coaching staff. So I've just got fabulous memories of being not just in Lahore, but being at the NCA and living in that delightful campus, and being able to just walk across the road, and it wasn't a very wide road, to one of the what I consider one of the great cricket grounds of the world.
Amazing. To me, I've heard a lot about the other grounds in Pakistan as well, and I might just turn your thoughts to that. You've talked off air about the road, as you described it, in Faisalabad, correct?
Yeah, well, when I bowled it seemed to be a road when I was there. Faisalabad, 1980, very high-scoring test match. Greg Chappell got a couple of hundred. Alan Border got run out for about 5. He still doesn't forgive them. High scoring Australia got 600. Pakistan, I think, 2 for about 400. Taslim Arifi was the keeper with a little towel hanging out. I still see him, tag hanging out his back, floppy hat on. Great keeper, but wonderful hands. He got a couple of hundred, and he wasn't even an opening batsman. And the bowlers got no joy whatsoever. It was subcontinental cricket at his batting best. Pitches that don't deteriorate over 5 days. And the spinners aren't spinning it, and the fast bowlers aren't bouncing it. That's tough cricket.
Certainly is. All right, let's turn out again to the subcontinent. Your experience with India is quite immense. You've been there a number of times. In fact, you also were the coach of the Kochi Tuskers, Kerala, weren't you, at one stage? Yeah,
we had 1 year in the IPL. That was the new franchise. After the first 3 years of IPL, they introduced a couple of new franchises. Pune Warriors was the other one. And the Kochi Tuskers were introduced, and I was a part of building that franchise up from zero and getting the team organised and the venues, and it was hard work, and unfortunately we only lasted 1 year. And we had some good players. Mahela J. Warden was our captain. We had Murali playing. We had Brendan McCullum. We had VVS Latchman, Party Patel, Michael Klinger from Australia has become a very good 2020 player. Steve O'Keefe was there as well. It was a pretty good side.
So but that build up to that first year in the IPL that you were involved with, obviously they've been about its 4th year by this stage. To me, that's the experience that I think would be interesting, not just the actual tournament itself, but the way that you build up to it, because a lot of it was majorly your effort to get to that point.
Well, certainly from a playing point of view and getting the side together, obviously the management side, just the logistics and the cost of getting together an IPL team, particularly when you're playing a place called like Kochi, which is not really a big cricket place. They've only ever had 2 test cricketers, Srisanth being one of them, and another was an Indian seamer in the late 90s. But, so Srisanth was the local hero down there, of course. But it's really a big soccer football town. And we had the major stadium there is fantastic, wonderful stadium. And we had to convert all that over for cricket and convince the locals that they wanted to come and watch cricket, because it's seriously not a big big cricket part of India, which seems almost incongruous that there's a part of India that doesn't really get into its cricket. And all the subsequent problems you have with ground management, local authorities, wow, I mean, I'm getting a headache thinking about it. And I had to do the playing side of it, and it was frantic and fatiguing, but it was also, immensely satisfying to be able to finally get our team. Remember the first game we played at home, we got our team on the field, and there was 50,000 people there. And
training?
At the game.
Right.
We only used to have about 20,000 at training. So we had 50,000, and everyone, we got our bright orange and our purple on, and it was just an enormous event when that game started. And watching, I think Brendan McCullum face the first ball, and VVS was at the other end. It was they're satisfying moments, and unfortunately, we only lasted one season.
Well, that's a pity, because it sounds like all the effort that had been put into it certainly deserved more than 1 year. Okay, again with India, you've got on your shirt, I can see the Global Cricket School. Now, I'm aware of that. Tell me more about that and your involvement with that.
Well, my involvement with that started with, Mumbai man named Sachin Bajaj, who does lots of cricket coaching, whether they're county cricketers coming in, whether it's Australian cricketers going over. He runs camps in Sri Lanka, Mumbai, Pune, Bengal, wherever. And he's just a cricket man. And we met about 1996 when the Australian Masters team were playing in Mumbai. But he's got an organisation that it's just really involved in making cricketers better cricketers and better people. And he brings in people from all over the world to go to these camps. And I get very lucky. I get to coach in these things. And I find it's a two-way street. Okay, I'm passing over my expertise and what I know about the game. But also I get to go to India, I don't know, 20, 30 times. And I get to see the culture and meet the people, and I enjoy India so much, I enjoy lots of parts of the subcontinent. That, I'll always find those a challenge, and being a part of the cricket world, it puts you in a special place over there. If you're part of cricket with Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Pakistan, even Afghanistan these days, if you're part of the cricket world, you're always in a much better place to continue your relationships. And Global Cricket School, I mean, I look forward to going every year, sometimes for 2 weeks, sometimes it's for a month, and passing over my expertise, but also getting lots in return.
So that's Brabourne Stadium is the main hub for that, is it not?
The Cricket Club of India is one of the places, depending on how many games they got on, but we could be up the road, we could be at the Hindu Gymkhana, right. We could be out in the suburbs, we could be at the new Sachin Tendulkar Gymkhana, which is a very impressive facility out in North Mumbai at Borivali.
That's his home suburb, isn't it, I believe?
Well, he's out there somewhere. Yeah. But certainly if you want to go to a nice place, I especially love the bowling alley at the Sachin Tendulkar Gymkhana. Got 2 lanes there. That gets me every time. But yeah, it's all great. I mean, India's and the subcontinent's just a great place if you want to get involved in cricket.
Okay, we've gone around the subcontinent there a fair bit, which is a very impressive discussion. Let's take it back to cricket New South Wales, even to this day. Now, obviously, Australia playing in India at the moment, or have been. Tell us more about your cricket New South Wales relationship, especially with the younger players coming through.
Well, I mean, I've played, 14 years in New South Wales. I captained for 4. I coached them back in the mid-90s for a couple of years, and now I'm back on the coaching staff, basically doing the bowling coaching. Unfortunately, Mitchell Stark's a part of that, Josh Hazlewood's a part of that, and Pat Cummins, of course, has just been called up as we speak. And they're just great young men to deal with. We've also got another group of guys who are fantastic. Sean Abbott, who's played a bit of IPL. We've got the legendary Doug Bollinger, who's played Test cricket. He's still playing. Trent Copeland, and a group of other younger players. Our depth in fast bowling is very good. But it's just it's good to deal with young men. They keep me young. I'm, not far from 60 these days, but to go to practice every day and most of the time at the Sydney Cricket Ground, enjoy their company and see young men trying to strive to be better and try to do the things that you did as a player. It's kind of satisfying. And I've got a choice in life. I've got an optometry degree, so I could go off and check people's eyes and write a few prescriptions and be indoors 8 or 9 hours a day, or I could be out in the nets coaching cricket. I know what I prefer.
I think I do too.
It's all good fun. So, and to see how the modern player goes about their game and what they think about their current game and the past game, it's fascinating. And somehow to be a link between, I first watched cricket at the SCG in 1969. Then I played there from 78 till 92, and then I've coached there and I've commentated and and written, and then be able to integrate all that with our young guys. I mean, it's nice to have the continuity and also make them realise what used to happen in the game, let alone be so self-obsessed with what they're doing at the moment. And you don't blame them for that,
No.
but they get tied up in their own little game and how they're going to go about it.
I'd like to see a Geoff Lawson statue there somewhere in the future.
Yeah, well, we're taking up collection. We've got about $7 so far, mate, so we've got a bit of work to do there.
Well, thanks again for this discussion. We'll go to a break now with Through the Eyes of a Cricketer. Welcome back. I've got Geoff Lawson sitting next to me here. We're discussing a whole gamut of activities that he's been involved with, from playing, captaining and coaching. But let's look to the modern area now, Geoff, around the Pakistan Super League, the PSL and the likes of the Sydney Sixers and the development of the game over the last so many years. Tell us about your thoughts there.
Well, it's interesting when the IPL, well, let's go pre-IPL and ICL,
Right.
How it started. I mean, people wondered, where was 2020 going? Would it be a frivolous distraction that came and went, you know, like a quickly passing meteorite? And a lot of people thought that because they thought the game itself, 20 overs aside, okay, what's serious about it? And therefore they dismiss it as a long-term event. And my thoughts at the time, and I'm in print as saying this, I thought when the ICL first started, then the IPL sort of overtook it and subsumed it in many ways, that we would end up with a series of world events and tournaments like we've got. You know, that's a bit of a stab in the dark, but that's where we've got. And international T20 cricket is really in the background. You know, so we've got Test cricket, 50-over cricket, where it's country against country, but 20-over cricket's turned into franchise cricket. We still have T20 World Cup, still pretty good, but that's probably the only time that I think the fans really get into T20 cricket, particularly at the male level. It's about the franchise cricket, and certainly IPL maybe number one, but the Big Bash in Australia has certainly taken off in ways that the authorities had not thought possible. The amount of people watching of a summer evening, turning on the TVs and watching the Big Bash is just phenomenal, and also turning up the game. So,
well, in particular children, there's a lot of children.
And it's covering all the age groups.
Exactly.
You know, and my anecdotal evidence is, you know, I know 5-year-olds who know all the teams and the players, and also know some 85-year-olds. And people will often say, "Oh, what are you doing tonight?" "Oh, I'm going to get home from work. I'm going to have dinner. I'm going to have a drink. I'm turning on the Big Bash." "Oh, who's playing?" "I don't know who's playing, but I'm going to watch it." So it's becoming a phenomenon like that. I mean, obviously the IPL, you know, the viewing numbers are enormous. It's an established tournament. So T20 cricket is being established. You know, I think it's actually bringing us fans to Test cricket as well. I think lots of young people see the T20, they think it's great, but also then they'll tune into Test cricket and find out about it, which I think it's nice, but it might be also essential for the success of and tenure of Test cricket.
So Dave Warner, for example, is a good example of that, which you're describing, aren't you? That T20 emergence and then that return to Test cricket viewing power as well.
Well, Dave Warner played T20 cricket for Australia before he played first class cricket for New South Wales.
Amazing.
And that is, we'll get some more of those, I think. The players who in club cricket will be able to whack the ball out of the park and they'll get T20 contracts. And there are a few of those around in Australia.
Well, talk about the Sydney Sixers for a moment there, because you have a relationship there, or indirectly with the Thunder as well, about how they're being approached. There's quite a few young players in that.
Yeah, well, the Sydney Sixers and the Thunder, they're both the franchises are owned by Cricket New South Wales. So part of my contract is I've got to coach in one or the other, and I'll be with the Sixers, which is fine. They're at the SCG. I don't like driving out the western suburbs. I said to them in TV interviews, I don't mind then. But you know, we will recruit in club cricket. We'll see who's playing well, and club cricket now has its own T20 tournaments, you know, and that's played early in the season, so young grade players can impress selectors and maybe get a contract. It might be for $20,000, might be whatever. So they will be playing T20 cricket or on franchise stars before they're going to play a game for New South Wales. And New South Wales, you know, in the the 50 over final early in the season when we had 6 Test players. We didn't quite. Mitchell Starc was still injured after his fielding accident, but at times we played Josh Hazlewood and Pat Cummins. We played Steve O'Keefe, Nathan Lyon, Steve Smith played. So it's pretty tough to get into the New South Wales side, but you can get into a T20 franchise, which is a terrific way to do.
Well, think of your days with the Village Green with the University of New South Wales. Can you imagine a cricketer in that mode suddenly playing for a state franchise?
I reckon there was a few players, when I first started playing club cricket, around the clubs, there were maybe half a dozen players who nowadays, if they played, would be multi-millionaire T20 players, who in those days everybody said, just a slogger. And they weren't even considered for first-class cricket. But today, they would be on IPL sides or maybe BBL sides. But in those days, it was, you can't bat like that. You can't just play shots like that. That's not disciplined cricket. But these days, if you play like that, you're a chance.
So, okay, are you suggesting that if we go to a club match like a Manly versus Ramick Petersham, you could be there in the audience with your little pen and paper checking out who might be a potential player for the future?
Oh, certainly. I mean, in Sydney, we've got 20 Premier League clubs, which a lot of people think's too many, but it's a big city. And the 20 Premier League clubs are all very well resourced. They've all got good grounds. There are lots of people playing. I think Greater Sydney's heading for 5 million these days, so 20 Premier League clubs is not that many. But every player who plays first grade will have their name in a black book somewhere. There'll be video available of them. There'll be scouts around recommending to other states, come and have a look at this player. So in this modern electronic era where digital video coverage is available of virtually everything, it's very easy for, say, the Hobart Hurricanes to look at someone playing in a Sydney club game. Penrith are playing Hawkesbury at Benson's Lane and say, well, he looks pretty promising. We better find out some more about him.
It's an intriguing development, certainly. Okay, well, let's talk about the PSL again, the Pakistan Super League. Now, obviously, the linchpin of that particular last tournament was around the final being in Lahore, having played most of its matches in the UAE itself. Tell us more about that and that development. How do you see that going in the future?
Well, I mean, let's take a few steps back to my time in Pakistan. T20 cricket was huge in 2007-8 in Pakistan, and all the domestic teams played lots of 20-over cricket. And certainly in 2008, the final, and they'd have a whole week of finals. The teams would come from all over Pakistan and play at Gaddafi Stadium. They might play across the road in the Lahore Cricket Club. They might be playing at Lahore Ravi, down the Gymkhana. And then they'd qualify for a final. It was a big carnival week. I don't think compared to the spring carnival racing, the Formula One, whatever. This was a big week of carnival cricket of T20. The Gaddafi Stadium games, they would be start at 10 a.m. in the morning and finish at 11 o'clock at night. So there'd be 3 games at least, if not 4, maybe three games, all covered on local TV, big ratings, big crowds, and the final would be on the Sunday afternoon. And I've been there with 30,000 people watching, the Sialkot Stallions playing, Bashar or something. So before the PSL came along, or was thought of, even when the IPL was in its infancy, Pakistan already had a very organised and popular T20 tournament. So to transfer that just to the PSL, which they've had to move to Dubai the last couple of years and the final in Lahore, was a logical extension of what they were doing. And of course now they've introduced some overseas players. And I just thought this year taking the final back to Gaddafi was a masterstroke. It's fine playing in Sharjah and Abu Dhabi and Dubai at those grounds where there are lots of Pakistan workers over there, but you still don't get the atmosphere. But to go back to Gaddafi for the final, I thought was absolutely fabulous. I know they had lots of security, as you would do to make sure everything runs smoothly, and it did run smoothly. But to me, that was just a return of that game. As I'd seen these big finals there before, and I was just massively impressed by what was going on. And there it was, the Pakistan Super League final back at its home, which was wonderful. More power to them.
Thanks, Geoff. I really appreciate the conversation. To me, what Geoff summed up there is a clear return of the Pakistan Super League, not only to Pakistan, but hopefully to national cricket. I'd love to see a test match once again there in the grounds, either Lahore, Faisalabad, Karachi. They're the grounds which I'd like to see test matches being played in again. So I do appreciate the conversation, Geoff. It's very, very relevant to today's time. So I hope you've enjoyed this particular episode with Geoff Lawson. He's been fantastic to listen to. I hope you agree. Tune into our next program of TV Arcana.